Hey everybody, hope everybody's having a good weekend. I wanted to do a channel update because I've kind of been gone for about a month. I'm not dead. Rumors of my death are not true. I've been really busy. Work's been busy. Other work's been busy. And vehicles don't go together as fast as they used to. Ran into a couple issues that I have solved, but they've just kind of moved time frames around a little bit. So, yeah, as y'all probably remember, I was building a 300 to go in this white van. Well, it turns out I've somewhat decided against that, and I'll tell you why. So, the problem with a 300 in a van is it becomes quickly a compromise. A, you can't run headers on it, and B, you'll have to do body and doghouse modifications to fit a decent 4-barrel intake manifold like an Offenhauser, which isn't really that great. If you really wanted to make the most power, you'd probably want a long run or Aussie speed or something. Everything aftermarket for a 300 is pretty much a compromise. And in a van, it's really a compromise. And for me, like, the whole mystique of it is to have something that runs way better than it should. When you package it in a van and you have to use cast iron exhaust manifolds, a basic intake manifold, but then you're having to do weird things with the carburetor, like, you have to pick it based on what will clear the doghouse and things like that. These compromises start adding up, and what a lot of people don't realize is in a van, if you have, and this is like a thing, you can dyno test this. Say you have, if we're talking Chevrolets, say you have a 350 small block Chevrolet that makes 375 horsepower to crank. Let's say it makes like 310 at the wheels in a 67 C10. Take that engine, put it in a Chevrolet G10 van with the same transmission, for the theory of just speaking about it, same length drive shaft, same rear end, same wheels and tires. It's probably going to make 20 to 25 horsepower less with the hood closed than it did in that truck, because the vans are so poorly ventilated, they just pretty much ingest hot air all the time. So it kills a lot of power, and it's not really good for efficiency. Guys that have really fast vans, like a guy that I've talked to on Facebook a bunch for years and years and years, hopefully get to meet him in person one day. His name's Wayne. He's got I want to say it's like a 77 Dodge van. It's tubbed, and it's got like a 540 big block Chevy in it and stuff, and it's really fast. If you look at guys like that have really fast stuff, they typically have a sealed air cleaner and hoses on it to run out from under the hood. Cooling system is a big thing, and that's kind of the issue with a 300 in a van, is because you can barely make like an Edelbrock carburetor kind of fit to where you don't really have to modify anything. But then when it comes to the air cleaner situation, you can't really run a hat that's really tall to run it to a tube. It's got to be one of the short ones, so all you're doing is just pinching everything off. So what would be the point in having, and like that 300 ended up with what had to be milled out of the block because it was really tired, really wore out. What was milled out of the block and head, and then with the 390 pistons, the thing's got literally almost 11 to 1 compression. So now we're talking an engine that might run on 93 octane. 91 definitely not. It might run on 93 if you pull a bunch of timing out of it. So at that point, you're detuning an engine to make it run on the street. So what's the point? My friend Dallas at Mr. Rodder's Neighborhood, he said something to me that was very wise and profound, and I've been thinking on it for like 2 or 3 weeks, and it makes total sense. He mentioned that in most cases it's better to have a lower compression engine that is tuned to its full potential, meaning the maximum amount of initial timing that it wants, the maximum amount of total timing it wants, not having to have it, set really rich, where you can get the carburetor leaned out to where it's making optimal power, not lean where it's burning holes in pistons, but where it's making, the most of what it can make. You're better off with that. We'll just say like an 8.5 to 1 compression, since it's him. Let's say a 9 to 1 compression Buick 455. You're better off with that engine tuned to its maximum potential than a Buick 455 with 10.5 to 1 that you've got like 5 degrees initial, 18 degrees total in it, and you've got everything set up trying to keep the thing from detonating on the street. It's just detuned at that point. You're better off with the lower compression engine that's tuned to its max potential and efficiency. Especially if you're driving the stuff. I mean, at the No Name Nationals, we're going to be racing, but, let's be honest, other than the cars that get trailered there, we're driving this stuff on the street more than we're really racing it. You're, racing 1/8 of a mile, 5-6 passes every couple of weekends here and there, whereas we're putting tens of thousands of miles on the street, so wouldn't you rather have it work on the street really well and do really good at the track? So I sort of fell out of love with this idea that having this really built 300 that's going to be detuned because it's really high compression, and the camshaft is, for a 300, is massive. We're talking in the 230s for duration, big lift. This thing's not even going to turn on until 3,000 RPM, and then it's all done at 5,000, 5,500 RPM, because it just physically, the rotating assembly is not going to allow it to do anything more. So that 300 has gone with a friend of mine to go in a really nice little F-150 with a stick in it. It'll run good in that because he has the room for, intake manifold, a real carburetor, put like a Holley 650 on it, headers, all that good stuff. In that truck, it'll probably be close to 300 horsepower, probably more, who knows. And with a stick, it's going to be a riot. So I already have another engine for this, and if you go back to my videos, you'll see where I picked up something for a good deal and ended up making a friend out of the deal. He's a really nice guy, big Ford guy. And if you're a Ford guy, you're the best kind of people, right? So, I'll give you a hint. It's 51 more cubic inches than a 300. So I have that engine, and I have the mounts and everything to put it in this white van. It might not happen before No Name because, you know me, everything has to go to the machine shop. I like everything right. I've been building stuff for a while, and like last year at No Name, I brought that Astro that I built a 305 for, and I did everything myself on the cheap. And that was cool, got it to the event, but the longevity really wasn't there, even though all the work was, everything was done right, wiring, fuel system, it wasn't like a rat's nest hack job. But, when you dingle ball hone a 200,000 mile 305, throw cast iron rings in it, and use, budget minded parts, you get what you pay for. It got the job done, but, as far as a long lasting vehicle, I knew it wasn't. I knew I was going to get the event out of it, maybe a couple of small trips, and then the engine was probably going to be tired. And it was burning 3 quarts of oil every 2 weeks, So I would rather show up to No Name this year with this van the way it is and do some bracket racing and all that if this other stuff isn't done in time, and then take my time over the next year, which it won't be, it'll be like a month, to get the engine and everything in it and have it dialed in, and then No Name 2025 be out there with 51 more cubes than the 300. I want it to be something that actually lasts. Like this engine that I'm putting together will pretty much indefinitely. I don't really ever expect to pull it out in case something catastrophic happened to it. I want something that'll last 180, 200,000 miles. So but it is really going with a small block Ford kind of opens you up because you have more options. And you can kind of build it for a van or a truck or something a little bit more appropriately. Stuff for 300s, a lot of the stuff's kind of more competition use or, whatever. Whereas, with small blocks, whether you're talking, Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, you don't just have the stuff that's like, Vic Junior single planes and 210cc intake runner heads. You have stuff that's actually meant for street use. And that's the benefit to the Windsors. You have all that stuff. And then, 351, you have cubes. You have stroke, so you can actually make some torque. And that's what they really need. And I wanted an engine that, wasn't so peaky that, you couldn't use it. Like this 351, and I'll sort of drop down here what it really is it's really a maximum efficiency high torque engine. I really didn't have horsepower in mind with it, but it is going to make horsepower. It's going to make a lot more than the 300, significant amount. So far, and it's all at the machine shop. It's been going on for a month now, so I mean, it could be done at any time. But I just try not to get all my eggs in that basket because things take time, especially good stuff. The bottom end is pretty much all stock rebuilt, but it's done right. The crank was done by the machine shop. The rods were reconditioned. It was bored 30 over. It's got new factory style pistons in it. I did go with Molly piston rings. Bored and honed professionally with Molly rings that are gapped professionally and deburred. So we have a bottom end that will go 200,000 miles. Well, those engines had E7 heads on them, but I got really lucky. A friend of mine that lives over near me sold me a set of not P's but GT40s, the standard GT40, like the early GT40, pretty much like the Lightning had and a lot of your early Mountaineers and stuff had. Before they went to the P head with the different spark plug angle that makes headers a real pain and all that. He sold those to me for a really good deal, and I really appreciate it. And so I had the machine shop go through those. So with the GT40 head, I'm getting a much larger intake runner, larger valves. I don't remember off the top of my head, so I just woke up, but over an E7, it's a big difference. I think the E7's like a 172 intake, and the GT40's like a 184 intake valve. I'm sure I'll get corrected, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And then like the exhaust valves go from, I think it's a 155 to like a 160 or something. And then these have actually been ported. You can see where the air injection humps in them have been ground out. The exhaust ports have been touched up. The intake ports have been gasket matched. They've had bowl work done to them. Everything under the seat's been done, and the work looks really good. So I wasn't even going to mess with it. Just let the machine shop. I had them milled, and 3-angle valve job. Have my trick flow valve spring package put in, because that's the other thing. I'm not running a hydraulic flat tappet cam in this engine. Again, longevity. So the thing you run into with the pre-roller block 351s, I mean, even if they're F4T roller block, if they're not drilled, for the actual retaining plate, for the factory dog bones and the factory hydraulic roller lifters, the lifter bores are actually taller in a flat tappet small block Ford. So the problem you kind of run into, if you say get like the Ford Racing replacement hydraulic lifters, hydraulic rollers, and use the factory dog bone and like one of the retention plates, and have the block drilled, you can do that, but you have to use a small base circle cam. Whereas I just went ahead, it wasn't cheap, but I got a set of Lenati link bar roller conversion lifters for it. That way I can run whatever cam I want. And I shopped around, and Lenati got kind of pulled in by the Holly Group. I think they were bought out or something. Them and Comp and all of them. Or maybe it's the other way around. I can't remember. And I found this Lenati cam that's like perfect for a van. The duration is 206, 216 at 50, so it's a split pattern, and it's 477 lift, which isn't big like a race cam, but 477 lift is not bad. A lot of your warm flat tappet cams for small block Chevys are around the 450 range. So 477 lift with a 1.6 rocker, and that's the cool thing. Since it's just a little bit under 500 lift, you can use your factory pedestal rockers. I can't remember what the limit on those was. You can go up to like 500, like if you have like an E303 with like 498 lift or something. But I think around like 510, 515 lift or something, you can run into binding issues. But The cool thing about that cam is it'll kind of work with all the stock stuff, other than, I did have the Trick Flow. I think it's part number 2500 100. It's to upgrade all your iron heads, and they're good for 550 lift and all that. So I've got that Lenati cam. It's on 112 with 4 degrees advanced ground in it. It says on the website, idle to 5,000, strong low end torque. Yeah, that's what I need. And then with the small block, I have the ability really to run a good set of headers on this. So I can use the Hooker part number, I think it's a 6910 HKR, which is, an 1 5/8 long tube, 2.5 inch collectors. Long tube headers are like a best buy. You should buy them. If there's a set that will fit your vehicle, you should put them on. I mean, you're talking 20-30 horsepower, and not even that, you're talking, huge torque gains, especially in the low and mid range. Everybody used to think that long tubes were all top end power, but they do a ton for low end torque. That's why those Hookers are still made, because they're really intended for Class A motorhomes, and you can tell by the collector that's as long as Kansas. But so I'm keeping the compression really reasonable, even though the GT40s have a smaller chamber. I went with just a slightly thicker head gasket and stuff, just to sort of, since the block's being milled, it'll be above, the factory was 8.8 to 1. It's still going to be between 8.8 and 9.0 to 1. Really safe for pump gas. You'll be able to put an 87 octane gas in this thing and not even worry about it. The bottom end's pretty much not important. It's just a fresh 0-mile 351 built with really quality parts, quality pistons, Molly rings. I bought the nicest bearings, all the oiling system stuff's done. It's got ARP everything in the bottom of it, Cloy's double roller, true roller timing set, all the good stuff. New timing cover, new oil pan, all new stuff, where it's just going to be a really nice clean engine. And then it's got those mildly ported GT40s, and probably going to top it with an Edelbrock standard performer intake to stick with that idle to 5,000 RPM range, and probably around a 650 CFM carburetor instead of long tube headers. And that camshaft, which it's still much bigger than a factory HO camshaft as far as lift, that engine's probably going to make in the neighborhood of 320, 330 horse, something like that, which is a big jump. I mean, that 300 is probably about 300 on a good day, but packaged in a van with a crappy carburetor, a horrible intake, exhaust manifolds, maybe 240, 250. But the real party trick of that 351, with 320 to 330 horse, somewhere in that range, this thing's going to probably have 400 foot-pounds of torque. And with the cam and everything, sort of all the components picked for that RPM range, this engine's going to probably make 18 to 20 inches of vacuum at idle. I had Mike Iben build me another torque converter. It's a factory high stall, so it's just a brand new factory high stall, and on a Ford C6 factory high stall can flash anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000. This one probably be 2,000 because heavier vehicle, 308 gear, and an engine that has a lot of torque to really whack it hard. But it's probably going to make 400 foot-pounds of torque. It's probably going to make peak torque probably 2,800, and it's probably going to have more than 330, 340 foot-pounds of torque. It's going to match the horsepower with torque probably right off idle. We're talking well over 300 foot-pounds of torque right above idle, 1,500 to 2,000. I mean, it's going to be a total tire fryer, and probably get pretty good gas mileage, run a long time. And with that C6 that Michael Livingston built for me, it's factory governor and everything in it, with a low-car kickdown cable on it and a black stripe modulator valve adjusted right. It probably should shift wide open and drive 1-2 shift between 4,800 to 5,000, and the 2.3 probably around that same range. I'm going to be able to stage this thing, nail it, let it come out of the hole, and leave it and drive and let it do its thing. I don't need to spin this engine past 5,500 because it's making all of its meat, idle to 5,000. So it's a far more practical engine, and it's definitely going to get me, into the nines a lot easier with a 308 gear and, a heavy C6. that engine also kind of leaves you, some room later to play. That cam is big enough. 206, 216, and 477 lift. I mean, if you were to, say, later get bored and put a set of AFRs on it, a set of 190s or whatever, and use a 172 Scorpion rocker and get the lift over 500 lift, and have a set of aluminum heads, you have 400 horsepower engine, just with a cylinder head change, and then swap the Performer out for a Performer RPM, put a 750 on it, or even go further than that, slide that cam back out of it. But you can do that in a van, just got to pull the radiator out, slide that cam back out of it, put in like a, you'd have to put a converter in it, obviously, something around 3 to 3500, but you could put, like a XR282 on a 110 in it, set of AFR 210s, Vic Jr. and a 750 Holly, and it probably make, close to 500 horsepower. But, for now, it's going to be a good running, solid, lots of torque, lots of horsepower, good engine that's going to last a long time. Just good things take time. And I just wanted to give a channel update this weekend. But I am still alive. Just been busy at work. Been on a new diet for about 4 weeks. I'm on the carnivore diet. Trying to lose some weight because, these vehicles don't get any lighter. So I better get, lighter, to help with that. And so I feel better. So I've been doing a lot of fishing, stuff like that. Since I've been kind of waiting on everything to kind of come together. At the very least, I want to do, I'm going to go through, probably next couple weeks, I'm going to go through the suspension and brakes and detail the frame, paint everything, pretty much do everything and be ready for the engine swap. And if the engine's not ready, it's just going to show up completely gone through with the current engine and transmission, set of wheels and tires on it, and I'll show up and just bracket race it and have a good time. And maybe if it works out that way, I might even put the engine on one of those one of the floor stands, and I might just put it in the back and bring it to No Name with me so everybody can see the engine that's put together for it. We'll figure it out. But anyway, you guys have a good weekend. Don't work too hard. See you later.